Gentlemen, listen to me carefully. If you are an older man and you've been waking up in the quiet hours of the night, between 3 and 5 in the morning, and you find yourself touching yourself for release, you need to stop immediately. I say this not to shame you, but to warn you, because what feels like a harmless private act during those hours could quietly be damaging your heart, your brain, your prostate, and even your ability to perform as a man. And the danger is far greater than most men ever realize. My name is Dr. Mohit Khera. I am a urologist and men's health specialist with over 30 years of experience helping men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond protect their vitality, restore their confidence, and live longer, stronger lives. I speak to you today not as a distant voice, but as if you were sitting right here in my office, man to man, patient to doctor. Here's the paradox. Masturbation itself is not the enemy. In fact, it can be healthy in many circumstances. But when it happens during the hours between 3 and 5 in the morning, it collides with the most vulnerable state of your body. That's when your heart is weakest, your blood is thickest, and your brain is most fragile. And that is exactly why the timing makes all the difference. So here is my promise to you. In this message, I will reveal 5 truths every older man must know about this hidden danger. These truths could save your erections, protect your prostate, and lower your risk of heart attack or stroke. And I must warn you, the final truth I will share is something almost no doctor ever tells his patients. It is shocking, it is life-changing, and once you hear it, you will never look at your midnight habits the same way again. Before we begin, if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so and turn on the notification bell. That way, you won't miss important health advice designed specifically for men in their 60s and beyond. And after watching, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Just type 1 if you found this valuable, or 0 if you'd like me to make it even better for you. Now let's move into the very first truth you must know. Gentlemen, your heart is at its most fragile between 3 and 5 in the morning. And when you add the sudden strain of sexual activity at this hour, the risk becomes far greater than you imagine. Truth number 1. Your heart is at its weakest, between 3 and 5 a.m. Gentlemen, I want you to pause for a moment and think about this with me. Between the hours of 3 and 5 in the morning, while the world is dark and quiet, your body is in its most fragile state. The heart you depend on every second of every day, the muscle that has carried you through decades of life, is beating at its slowest, its blood pressure at its lowest, its rhythm at its most vulnerable. At this time, the body is in deep recovery, doing its best to prepare you for the new day ahead. And yet, many men interrupt this fragile moment with something they think is harmless: sexual stimulation. Now, let me be clear. I am not here to condemn intimacy or even masturbation. In the right setting, at the right time, it can be part of a healthy routine. But when you force your body into sudden arousal during the hours of 3 to 5 in the morning, you are placing extraordinary strain on your heart at the exact moment it is least equipped to handle it. Think about it. Your heart is resting, your blood vessels are relaxed, and your nervous system is in its deepest calm. Then suddenly, you flood your body with adrenaline, your heart races, your blood pressure spikes, and every vessel in your body is forced into high alert. For a young man, this may not cause immediate damage. But for men in their 60s and 70s, men who may already carry the weight of high blood pressure, diabetes, or hidden blockages in their arteries, this sudden surge can be the trigger for something devastating. This is not just theory. Medical studies show that the risk of heart attacks and strokes is highest in the early morning hours. This is when the body naturally shifts, preparing to wake, when clotting factors in the blood are at their thickest, and when the heart is most easily thrown off balance. Adding the strain of orgasm during this vulnerable period can be like striking a match near a dry field. It may ignite something that cannot be undone. I have seen this in my own practice. Men who seemed healthy, who never suspected their hearts were in danger, suddenly collapsed after a moment of midnight indulgence. Families left shocked, wives left grieving, children left asking why, and the truth is, the timing played a greater role than they ever realized. When I tell you this, I am not trying to frighten you for the sake of fear. I am trying to protect you. I want you to imagine your heart as an old friend who has served you faithfully for over 6 decades. This friend has worked without rest, every minute of every day, pumping life through your veins. But by the time you reach your 60s, this friend is not as strong as it once was. It can still carry you through many more years, but it needs you to respect its limits. Waking it suddenly from its deepest rest, forcing it into a sprint at 3 in the morning, is like asking an old friend to run uphill without warning. Yes, it may make it to the top once, twice, maybe even 100 times, but one day, without warning, it may collapse. So what can you do with this knowledge? The first step is awareness. Simply understanding that your body is at its weakest during these hours changes the way you think about your habits. It allows you to see that timing matters. That self-control at this fragile hour is not about denying yourself pleasure, it is about preserving your life. And it is about choosing the moments that give you health, not harm. And here's something most men never consider. Every time you protect your heart in those quiet hours, you are giving yourself more mornings to wake up to, more days to spend with your wife, your children, your grandchildren, more moments of laughter, of joy, of intimacy, shared at a time when your body is ready, not when it is vulnerable. Because the truth is, what you choose between 3 and 5 in the morning does not just affect that moment, it affects your entire future. Gentlemen, I've been in this field for decades. I've spoken with thousands of men, and I can tell you that many never knew this simple truth. They believed what they were doing in the middle of the night was harmless, maybe even good for them. But the human body is not built that way. The timing of your actions matters as much as the actions themselves. And if you want to protect your heart, your most loyal organ, you must give it the respect it deserves in those fragile hours. Now, as important as this first truth is, it's only the beginning. Because what you do at that hour doesn't just affect your heart. It also deeply affects another system in your body that controls your energy, your hormones, and even your ability to maintain strong erections. And this next truth might surprise you even more, because it's something most men never connect with their nighttime habits. Truth number 2. You're disrupting your sleep cycle and hormone balance. Gentlemen, I want you to think about what truly restores a man's strength as he ages. It isn't just food or exercise or even medicine. It's sleep. Deep, restorative, unbroken sleep. And during the hours between 3 and 5 in the morning, your body is often in its most important cycles of repair. This is the time when your brain organizes memories, when your muscles and tissues heal, and most importantly, when your hormones, the very chemicals that control your vitality, are being carefully balanced. Now imagine what happens when you interrupt this fragile state. You wake, you stimulate yourself, you force your body into an entirely different rhythm. Even if you fall back asleep, your body does not simply return to where it left off. No, those cycles are broken, and the cost is far greater than you may realize. Testosterone, the hormone that fuels your strength, your energy, your confidence as a man, is replenished during the deepest stages of sleep. But when that rhythm is disrupted, night after night, your testosterone levels suffer. And when testosterone suffers, everything else begins to decline. You may notice less energy in the morning, less drive during the day, and weaker erections at night. The very spark that makes you feel alive begins to dim. I have spoken with countless men in their 60s and 70s who tell me, "Doctor, I just don't feel like myself anymore. I'm tired all the time. I don't wake up with that same fire I used to." And often, when I look deeper, the problem is not just age. It is the loss of healthy, restorative sleep. And yes, one of the hidden culprits is the habit of waking up between 3 and 5 in the morning to pleasure themselves. What feels like a moment of release, a small act to help fall back asleep, is in fact robbing them of the very fuel their body needs to thrive. And it is not only testosterone at risk. Melatonin, the sleep hormone, and cortisol, the stress hormone, are also being thrown out of balance. These two are supposed to move in a delicate rhythm, melatonin high at night to help you rest, cortisol rising in the morning to help you wake. But when you wake too early, stimulate your body, and then force it back into sleep, this natural balance is disrupted. The result is poor sleep quality, daytime fatigue, irritability, and a body that feels older than it truly is. Think about it this way. If you had a finely tuned clock, a masterpiece built to run smoothly, would you suddenly jam its gears in the middle of the night and expect it to keep perfect time? Of course not, but that is exactly what you do to your body when you break its sleep cycle with unnecessary stimulation. You interrupt its natural design, and the gears begin to wear down faster than they should. I want to share something personal from my years in practice. I once treated a man in his early 70s. He came to me complaining of low energy, mood swings, and declining intimacy with his wife. He believed he was simply getting old, but when I asked about his sleep, he admitted that he often woke around 4 in the morning and used masturbation as a way to help himself drift back to sleep. He thought it was harmless, even helpful. But what he didn't realize was that it was sabotaging his hormones night after night. We worked together to adjust his habits, to respect his natural sleep cycles, and within months, his energy improved, his mood stabilized, and even his marriage grew stronger. Not because of a new pill, but because he stopped disrupting the very foundation of his health: sleep. Gentlemen, I want you to see this clearly. Sleep is not just rest. It is the engine of your body's repair. And when you disturb it at its most critical hours, you are not just losing a little rest. You are stealing from your hormones, from your strength, from your manhood itself. Now, as damaging as this disruption can be, there is something else happening in those hours that most men overlook. Something far more specific to your body as it ages. It is not about your heart this time, nor about your hormones. It is about an organ that defines a man's health in his later years. An organ that, if ignored, can quietly make life unbearable. And the truth about this organ may surprise you even more. Truth number 3. Your prostate is under more pressure than you realize. Gentlemen, as men age, there is one organ that begins to quietly dictate more of our daily lives than most of us ever expect. It's small, it's hidden, and yet it can create some of the most frustrating changes we face in our later years. I'm talking about the prostate. Now, by the time a man reaches his 60s, more than half already have some degree of prostate enlargement. That means the very gland that once supported your fertility and sexual function is now slowly pressing against your bladder, changing the way you urinate, keeping you up at night, and silently reminding you that time is moving forward. But what many men never realize is that the hours between 3 and 5 in the morning are some of the most sensitive for the prostate. During those early hours, as part of the body's natural rhythm, the prostate tends to swell slightly. It is engorged with blood, and the tissues are more reactive. When you add the strain of masturbation or ejaculation at that exact time, you are placing even more pressure on an already delicate organ. Instead of providing relief, you may actually be creating microtrauma, tiny injuries within the tissue that, over time, lead to inflammation and worsening enlargement. I have had patients come to me and say, "Doctor, I thought releasing pressure at night would help my prostate." They believed that frequent ejaculation, especially in the early morning hours, was a way to flush the gland and keep it healthy. But here's the truth. While moderate sexual activity can support prostate health, the timing and the condition of the prostate matter deeply. At 3 or 4 in the morning, when the gland is already swollen and congested, adding forceful stimulation doesn't calm it, it aggravates it. This can make symptoms like frequent urination, weak flow, or the constant urge to go even worse. And there's something else you need to hear, something most men don't like to talk about. Chronic irritation of the prostate, especially in men with existing enlargement, can set the stage for long-term inflammation. And inflammation is not just uncomfortable. It is a known risk factor for more serious conditions, including prostate cancer. Now, I'm not saying that one night of early morning masturbation will cause cancer, but I am saying that years of stressing this sensitive gland at its most vulnerable time is a risk not worth taking. I'll tell you about a patient of mine, a retired firefighter in his late 60s. He came to see me because he was waking up 5, sometimes 6 times a night to urinate. He was exhausted, frustrated, and embarrassed. After a careful conversation, he admitted that he often woke around 4 in the morning and used masturbation as a way to relax and try to fall back asleep. He thought it was helping him, but in reality, it was fueling the very problem that drove him to my office. Once we addressed his habits and made changes to protect his prostate, his symptoms improved. He began sleeping longer, felt more rested, and even regained confidence in his daily life. His story is not rare. It's something I see again and again in men his age. So I want you to think of your prostate not as a problem to be ignored, but as an organ that deserves care. At 60 or 70 years old, your prostate has already been through decades of wear. It has supported your fertility, your intimacy, your masculinity. Now it needs you to treat it gently. Waking in the fragile hours before dawn and forcing it into more stress is like asking an old engine to run on no oil. It may still work, but the damage builds up quietly until one day it fails. Gentlemen, protecting your prostate is about more than avoiding discomfort. It's about preserving your independence, your dignity, and your quality of life. Because when the prostate suffers, every part of your day is affected, from your sleep to your confidence to your most private moments. This is why I urge you to rethink your habits. What feels like relief may, in truth, be the very thing deepening your struggles. And here's the part that should make you stop and think. The effects of early morning stimulation don't end with your prostate. No, there is something even more vital at stake. Because when you interfere with your body's natural rhythm during those hours, you are not only straining your prostate, you are interfering with the very mechanism that keeps your erections alive. And once those erections begin to weaken, the damage can become permanent. Truth number 4. Erections lost at night can mean erections lost forever. Gentlemen, there is something that very few men talk about openly, yet it is one of the clearest signs of a man's health. It's those nighttime and early morning erections, the ones you often wake up with, sometimes without even noticing, sometimes taking for granted. These are not random events. They are your body's natural way of keeping your sexual function alive. They are nature's signal that blood is still flowing, that tissue is still healthy, that your manhood is still strong. And yet, when this delicate cycle is interrupted too often, especially during the fragile hours of 3 to 5 in the morning, the price can be devastating. You see, the penis is not just about pleasure. It is an organ that requires regular blood flow to stay healthy. Those natural nocturnal erections act like exercise for the tissues. They bring oxygen-rich blood to the cells, they keep the smooth muscle flexible, and they prevent scar tissue from building up. But when you force your body into manual stimulation during these hours, night after night, you can override this natural process. Instead of allowing your body to perform its quiet maintenance, you impose your own rhythm on it, and over time, this can weaken the very mechanism that keeps erections strong. I remember a patient of mine, a proud grandfather in his early 70s. He told me with a heavy voice, "Doctor, I thought I would always have at least some function, but lately it feels like my body just doesn't respond the way it used to." As we talked, I discovered he had developed a routine of waking up around 4 in the morning and using masturbation as a way to relax. What he didn't realize was that he was stealing from his own future. The nightly erections his body tried to create were being replaced with forced stimulation at the worst possible time. Within just a few years, his natural function declined sharply. He thought it was just age. But it wasn't just age. It was the gradual erosion of a natural process that his body desperately needed. And that's the tragedy I want you to avoid. Erections are not lost overnight. They are lost little by little, often because of habits that seem harmless. But once they are gone, once the tissue loses its elasticity, once the blood vessels stop responding, it becomes much harder, sometimes impossible, to restore them fully. Men often think they will always be able to bounce back, that they can wait until the problem is severe before addressing it. But the truth is, every night you interfere with your body's natural oxygenation cycle, you are moving closer to a point of no return. This is why I tell my patients, don't wait until the light goes out to appreciate its glow. If you are still experiencing natural erections at night, that is a gift. That is your body telling you there is still strength left, there is still vitality to protect. And if you want to keep it, you must guard it fiercely. Stop pushing your body during its most vulnerable hours. Stop trading long-term health for short-term release. Your manhood is worth more than a few minutes of habit. I know this may sound personal, and it is, because I have seen the heartbreak it causes. I have sat across from men who felt their confidence collapse, who felt their marriages strain, who carried the silent shame of not being able to perform. And in many cases, this loss could have been prevented if they had only understood how important those nighttime erections truly are. They are not just biology, they are the very foundation of intimacy, self-esteem, and quality of life as a man. So I want you to take this seriously. Protect your nighttime erections. Respect them. Because if you lose them, you may lose more than just function. You may lose a part of your identity. And once that is gone, no pill, no device, no quick fix can fully bring it back. Prevention is always stronger than repair. And here's where it gets even more urgent. It's not only your erections at stake. There is something even more dangerous happening in those same early morning hours. Something that has the power to change your life in an instant, without warning. Because what your body faces between 3 and 5 in the morning is not just a matter of performance, it's a matter of survival. And once you hear this next truth, you will understand why I say that what you do in those quiet hours could one day mean the difference between life and death. Truth number 5. The hidden stroke risk no one talks about. Gentlemen, I need you to listen carefully here, because this truth may be the most serious of all. Between 3 and 5 in the morning, your blood is at its thickest, your vessels at their most vulnerable, and your risk of stroke is higher than at any other time of the day. Now imagine what happens when you add sudden stimulation, a racing heart, and the force of orgasm on top of that. For a man in his 20s, maybe this isn't a disaster. But for a man in his 60s or 70s, especially one carrying high blood pressure, diabetes, or cholesterol, it can be a perfect storm. And I have seen this storm take lives. Let me tell you why. During those early hours, your body is naturally dehydrated. You've been sleeping, not drinking water, and your blood grows thicker. At the same time, certain clotting factors peak in your bloodstream. Nature designed this shift as part of your circadian rhythm, but in men with aging vessels, it creates a dangerous landscape. Your arteries, which may already be stiffened with plaque, are asked to handle a surge of pressure and adrenaline. The walls strain, the blood thickens, and the chance of a clot breaking loose grows higher with every beat. Now picture the moment of orgasm in those conditions. Your blood pressure spikes dramatically, your vessels constrict, and if a clot is lurking, it may travel straight to your brain. That's when the stroke strikes, sudden and merciless, leaving you changed forever in the blink of an eye. I remember one of my patients vividly. He was a man in his late 60s, proud, strong, the kind of man who rarely saw himself as fragile. He woke one morning at 4 a.m., engaged in the habit he thought was private and harmless, and within minutes his wife found him unable to speak, his face slack on one side. A stroke had taken what years of hard living had not. His body survived, but the life he knew, the independence, the confidence, the intimacy with his partner, was gone. And what haunts me is knowing that if he had understood the risk of those hours, he may have chosen differently. I do not share this to frighten you without purpose. I share it because, as a physician, I see how easily men underestimate the risks of their own bodies. You've lived decades, you've worked hard, you've survived so much, and it is easy to think, this won't happen to me. But stroke doesn't ask permission. It doesn't give you a second chance. It arrives suddenly, in the quiet of the night, and takes away what you love most about life. That is why I'm urging you, man to man, doctor to patient, to understand that timing is not a small detail. It is the difference between safety and danger, between life and tragedy. Some of you may be thinking, but doctor, isn't sexual release healthy? Doesn't it reduce stress? And yes, in the right conditions, at the right time, it can be part of a balanced life. But not when your body is in its most fragile state. Not when the blood is thick, the heart is vulnerable, and the brain is at risk. It is not about denying pleasure. It is about choosing life over a fleeting moment. And when you think about your wife, your children, your grandchildren, the moments still ahead of you, I believe you will see that it is a trade worth making. Gentlemen, this truth may be the hardest to hear, but it may also be the one that saves your life. If you are in your 60s or 70s, your body has already carried you through more than you give it credit for. Now it needs you to carry it, to respect its limits, and to protect it from risks that younger men never have to think about. And this particular risk, The hidden stroke danger that comes with early morning stimulation is one of the greatest. But I don't want to leave you feeling powerless, because knowledge without action is only half the battle. The question now becomes, what can you do about it? How do you take this truth, this understanding of your body's vulnerability, and turn it into habits that protect your health, preserve your manhood, and extend your years of strength? That, gentlemen, is what we need to talk about next. Truth number 6. What you need to do instead. Gentlemen, after hearing all these warnings, you may be wondering, so what should I do instead? And this is where I want to give you hope, because you are not powerless. Your body, even at 60 or 70, still responds beautifully when you treat it with respect. The first and most important step is to honor your natural rhythm. If you wake in those fragile hours, resist the urge to turn to old habits. Instead, focus on calming yourself, deep breathing, quiet reflection, even something as simple as sipping water you left by your bedside. These small actions protect your heart, your brain, and your prostate more than you realize. When it comes to sexual release, timing matters. Choose moments when your body is ready, not when it is weakest. In the evening before sleep, or in the morning after you rise, your body can handle stimulation with far less strain. This shift alone can preserve your energy and safeguard your erections. And never underestimate the basics: staying hydrated, walking each day, eating foods that keep your blood flowing, leafy greens, nuts, berries. These are not just lifestyle tips, they are medicines nature has given you. Protect your prostate by limiting alcohol, cutting back on processed foods, and adding simple anti-inflammatory choices like tomatoes and green tea. And above all, don't suffer in silence. If you notice changes in your energy, your urination, or your intimacy, speak to your doctor. I promise you, there is no shame in asking for help. I have seen men transform their health simply by making these shifts, by respecting their body's timing, by nourishing it instead of draining it, by reaching for strength instead of surrendering to habit. And the beauty is, it's never too late to start. But before we finish, I need to share one final message, perhaps the most important of all. Because knowing the dangers and knowing the solutions are not enough. You must understand the deeper reason why this matters. And once you hear it, I believe it will change the way you see yourself, your health, and your future forever. Conclusion. Gentlemen, we have walked through 6 truths together, and I know some of them were difficult to hear, but I want you to understand that my purpose is not to frighten you. It is to give you the knowledge that so many men never receive until it is too late. We spoke about how your heart is most fragile between 3 and 5 in the morning, how waking to stimulate yourself can strain it in ways that put your life at risk. We uncovered the damage done to your sleep and your hormones, how those lost hours can drain testosterone and energy that your body desperately needs to stay strong. We talked about the hidden pressure on your prostate, how what seems like release may in fact be fueling inflammation and enlargement. We confronted the reality that nightly erections are not just chance, but a vital part of keeping your manhood alive, and how interfering with them can mean losing function forever. And we faced the most frightening truth of all, the hidden stroke risk that comes when you push your body during its most vulnerable hours, a risk that can take away your independence in an instant. But we also talked about what you can do instead, how respecting your sleep, shifting the timing of your release, staying hydrated, protecting your prostate, and speaking openly with your doctor can change everything. And I want to leave you with this thought. You are not too old to protect yourself. You are not too old to change. In fact, the choices you make today, even the smallest ones, have the power to give you years of strength, intimacy, and dignity ahead. I have seen men in their 70s reclaim energy they thought was gone. I have seen marriages healed, and I have seen men walk into my office with fear only to walk out with hope. That same future is waiting for you if you are willing to take these truths to heart. So my advice, man to man, doctor to patient, is simple. Respect your body, honor your rhythms, and never underestimate the power of small changes. Because what you do in the quiet hours of the night will shape the life you live in the bright light of day. And the choice, gentlemen, is in your hands.